Greater Brighton Area Chamber of Commerce. And this month, we are excited to have Jason Tracey here to speak to us about sales and getting your marketing plan off, right, for 2024. Yeah, I guess that's a good word, being intentional. He is a business coach, a podcaster, a speaker, and most recently not a barista, but I don't know, more. But he's just an all-around great guy, and I guarantee you will walk away with some nuggets that you'll be able to use today and beyond.
This is a nice sized group. Last one there was like 6, so that was Carol was there, and it was a nice one. So thank you everybody for coming out, especially in this freezing cold. Oh, they got the money out of pocket.
Oh, that's fine.
I'm like, maybe it is. I don't know. Has anybody here been like me, where you've had maybe a good week, a good month, you're not really sure in sales, in business, and you're not really sure how you got there? Yeah, like you couldn't repeat it again. You're just like flying by. It feels great, but then the next month comes along, and you're like, how do I do that again? Have you ever been cruising along and as a business owner, professional, whatever it is you're doing, building your business, growing your revenue, and all the distractions pop up as far as marketing, AI, all these different things. You're trying to figure out which way do I go, what works for me. Yeah, it's a lot of distractions out there, right? Has anybody here ever switched what you're doing in your process, your products, your services over and over again in chasing success and trying to figure out what works and what doesn't? Yes. All right. I think we have something to talk about. That's awesome. Oh, you said yes, no. So what we're going to talk about today is intentional revenue growth. And so when I started my business 6 years ago, I got out, and if you can see, I'm very excited. I was excited about what I was doing. I went out and I started talking to people. I got some clients, and I didn't really know what I was doing. Those clients ended up being horrible fits. So I got some money here, it was horrible fits, and then all of a sudden I didn't know, I didn't know how to go get more of that. And so my second year in business, the word I used to really grow my business was be intentional. What is working? So what we're going to talk about today is 5 key areas that you can use, 5 key strategies to use for your business, for your industry this year that'll help you become more intentional and on-cage your revenue growth for 2024. So first thing we're going to talk about is belief system. We're going to talk about discovery and clarity for your people, because at the end of the day, we're all in the people business. No matter what you're selling, no matter who your client is, somebody is running that. If you're B2B, right, somebody is running that business. And so at the end of the day, we're really in the people business. We're going to talk about how to build that know, like, trust. How to uncage that, how to get it much quicker, because building trust is a long process, right? How can we get that quicker? This is one that is just huge, talking about the sales process. And when we're talking about being intentional, as I work intimately with clients, I work with both solopreneurs, and I also work as a consultant with clients that are bigger. We have teams and leadership teams. In sales process is the thing that is always jamming up in closing off your results. And then lastly, there's another question I should ask is goals and KPIs. Who struggles really setting meaningful goals? I'm going to get 5 of those sales today. Well, what does that mean to you, right? So to open this up, guys, sales, when I say the word sales and selling, what does that make you feel like? Move? Hustle? Okay. When someone's selling you, how do you feel? Ugh. You feel uncomfortable?
Yeah, it's the ick,
Right? Who are you as a person? Right? So if I'm just asking you, who are you as a person? Now think of that. Who are you as a person? Who are you to your family? Who are you to your loved ones? Who are you to your friends? And then when you pick up that phone or you're with a prospect sitting across from you, who are you then? For me, I've been in sales for over 20 years, to kind of date myself. And when I got into sales, I sucked at it so bad. I got into it because I felt like I was good with people, but then I got into it, and man, it was really hard. I pick up the phone and I make calls, and I pictured myself as a slimy salesperson. pictured myself as, I remember being a little kid and my grandma would get telemarketing phone calls and we'd all be around, it'd be like the entertainment for our weekend, right? My grandma would tell this salesperson off and make their life a hell. And then she'd get off the phone and we'd all laugh at that poor person's expense, right? Just ruin their day, we all thought it was funny. And so when I was making sales calls, I felt like I was that person. So if you have any negative connotation to what sales is, do you think that prevents you from actually doing a good job selling and being an entrepreneur? Our belief is everything, right? So some years ago, I was working with a guy who was on my team. His name was Shane, and I hired Shane because Shane was. And you ever meet somebody that you look in their eyes and you see their soul? Like you just know this guy he has it. You know, like when you talk about athletes or people that have that charisma, they just have it. Like this guy would shake your hand and bring you into a hug, and you just felt like warm and toasty. So like I hired this guy, and man, this guy, he was a manifester. And a manifester in the wrong way, in the sense that everything that he said would come true, which is what happens. That's the belief system. What we think is what comes true. And so Shane would be like, man, my dog's gonna get sick. I'm so worried my dog's gonna get sick. I'm like, is your dog sick now? No. It's just a worry again. When I get my check, all the money's gonna be gone. I just know something's gonna happen. I'm gonna, everything you say, I'm so worried I'm gonna get a headache. Like I get these migraines all the time, and I'm so worried that today I'm gonna have a headache, and I'm like, and sure enough, later on, you'd have this migraine, and you'd be dying, right? And so I brought Shane into my office one day. I was going to have this intervention. Who's ever heard of The Secret, the movie? And so I had the movie The Secret. This was, back several years ago when it was popular, and I had the movie sitting on my desk, and I brought Shane in, and I'm like, I'm gonna change this guy's life, right? And so I bring Shane into the room. He looks over at my desk and he sees the movie. He's like, The Secret. That's my favorite movie. He knew the stuff, right? He told me he watched that movie every night with his girlfriend. They sat and watched that movie every night, and yet every day he's manifesting the wrong thing, right? And so why do I tell this story? I tell this story for a couple of reasons. One is that our belief is everything. Shane knew the information. I can tell you right now that everything we're going to talk about, you probably have heard, you probably know. Are you doing it? Have you tried it? And if you tried it before, what happened and did you keep doing it? Because it's all about consistency, and if you try something once, do it again, do it again, do it again, right? You gotta have that consistency with it. Second reason I tell that story is we all have a little shame in us, don't we? We all know the answers, but it's all about having that perspective switch. And so as we go through this, remember again, whether you think you can or you think you can't, either way you're right. Right? I haven't met a single person or coached a single person in my life that, whether race, whether male, female, economic, social economics, they could out-earn their belief system. Whether you think you can or you think you can't, either way you're right. Now, who wants to know how to switch that perspective? Glad somebody does. Thank you. Whew! We got a big group here. Let's cheer it up. All right. Hey, is this what we think of it when we think of sales?
Yeah.
Oh, when I got into sales, and again, this is the reason why I struggled so hard. When I got into sales, they said, all right, your sales training is go home and watch the movie The Boiler Room. That's what we did. Has anybody seen the movie The Boiler Room? One of my favorite movies. I love it. I love the movie. If you sling crack rock, you got a wicked jump shot. I didn't even, so I got into sales. And so I got into sales, and they're like, the boiler room, that's what we do. When you get into sales, they tell you to go watch Glengarry Glen Ross, go watch Wolf of Wall Street. And so again, that's shaping our belief system. If that's what we think sales is about, are we going to have success doing it? I couldn't get behind that, and so I failed hardcore. It took me a while to figure out what sales actually was. And sales is actually serving at the highest level. Now let's switch our perspective. I promised a science here on how to switch your perspective, and I guarantee you, if you've heard this before from another sales speaker talking, I'd love to know, because I've never heard it from any other thing. Because oftentimes we can talk about the right things to say, we can talk about process, we can talk about everything else, but if the mindset isn't there, if the belief system isn't there, it does not matter, right? When you're doing things in a perspective of belief, like I had a sales guy that was amazing. This guy, if he was in front of you, could sell you on anything. But when he was making calls, he didn't believe in them. And so I was watching him one day make calls, and his belief system was really low, and he's making horrible phone calls. if he really believed in him, it'd be just like when he was in. So, has anybody ever bought a car that you've never seen on the road before, and all of a sudden you see that car everywhere?
Yeah.
Is that you were a trendsetter, or was that car already there?
I was looking for it then.
You were looking for it. I ride a Harley, and before I got my Harley, I had never seen a motorcycle in Brighton. And then I got my Harley, and I'm like, I live in a biker town.
Yeah.
Holy crap. There's bikes everywhere, you know, like this is pretty insane. It didn't matter to me before. It wasn't in my filter. There are so many things happening right now in the universe that we can't comprehend it. Our minds can't pull all of that in. So we do three things. Our brains actually have a filter that do three things. It deletes, distorts, and generalizes information. That filter is called the reticular activation system. Has anybody heard of the reticular activation system? Three people. And you all do something in science. So the reticular activation system always makes me feel super smart. It's like when you go on the internet and look for a pair of shoes, and then you go on Facebook and those shoes pop up in your ads, right? Your reticular activation system is like your filter that's in your mind. It's actually part of our science. It's located this little guy right here. And so that thing tells us what is important to us. And so that car, all of a sudden we buy that car, and we see that car all over the road. Now, I'm telling you this story because this is how we change our beliefs and shift our beliefs, and we can all of a sudden see sales is serving at the highest level, right? Because if I believe sales is or yuck, or I believe I can't make money making phone calls, that phone calls suck, that nobody wants to be called, what is my reticular activation system going to go up and find for me?
All the sucky things.
All the sucky things. Our minds are excellent servants but terrible masters. Our minds, if we tap into them and use our reticular activation system to shift, we can get to do whatever we want, right? We can shift the results. In 2020, God, 2020, made me shiver, right? All the political things going on, and I was like, I don't even want to be on Facebook. I don't want to cut my Google newsfeed because all the stuff is popping up. I was able to actively delete all that stuff out of my filter by not clicking on or focusing anything. And so when people would tell me, oh, don't go on Facebook because the world's a nasty place, I was like, I don't see that. I've got all these great people in my feed. Because I was able to shift it. Now, if I can shift my social media, if I can shift my Google newsfeed, what can I do in my head? I had to, in sales, understand that sales is serving at the highest level. I had to find ways to serve my clients. If you're in this room and all you care about is money and you just want to sell and cram, I don't think anybody in here is that person. But if you're that person, this isn't going to help you. My coaching isn't going to help, nothing's going to help, I can't help you, right? Somebody out there will help you make money. But it's all about understanding how you can serve people. I was in the cell phone industry, this is an example, and it was like when I made phone calls to sell people over the phone, they'd hang up on me. As I had customers come in, I realized their pain points, their drivers, what made them upset. Here's a good example. After 12 months, anybody that owns a cell phone, 12 months, you have a 1-year warranty on your cell phone, right? After that 1-year warranty, has anybody ever had to make a warranty claim or you have something go on your phone after 12 months? What do they tell you? Sorry, buy the phone, right?
Buy the phone.
But if you catch it within that 12 months, they'll replace the phone, no problems. Well, I had so many customers that come in at after 12 months and be like, so upset with me. This phone's been doing this since day one. Well, why are we here at 14 months? And you're telling me, right? So, light bulb, how can I serve my clients at a higher level? I would start calling at 10 months. And I would start calling my clients and saying, hey, I was calling you, I told you about the year warranty, I'm calling to let you know it's going to be up in 2 months, what's going on? And then they'd tell me, and then they'd come in. And then have a chance to have a dialogue, a chance to look up their account. Oh, by the way, little Jimmy just turned 10, he needs a new phone, so I had a new phone on. It gave me a way to build a relationship with my clients. There's so many times that you're calling, you're not trying to sell me anything, right? And so I was able to shift that perspective and to serve my clients. If I can serve my clients, now all of a sudden, it's not selling. When I started my business, I was going out and I was meeting a lot of coaches and consultants because I wanted to pick their brain. And as I was out doing that, I met a lot of people that were better coaches and consultants than me. I was starting to get a lot of imposter syndrome, quite frankly. But at the same time, they were telling me about how they were going to have to go back and get another job. or how they're going to go out of business, or how they're struggling selling and they couldn't get people to buy. And it was like, I have a choice here. I can tell them that I can help them, right? Or I can see myself as a pushy salesperson that is just trying to get their money, and I can go home and not tell them anything. Which way am I the asshole? If I go home and don't tell them, and then I run into them in 5 months, and they're working a job that's sucking their soul out of them, right? and they're like, this is the worst part, they feel like they're failures. They feel like they were never meant to own a business. They feel like, like that dream that I had was a nightmare. If I run into those people in 5 months and I didn't tell them, hey, I can help you, I'm gonna feel far worse than if they felt like I was a salesperson saying, hey, I can help you. And so that helped me shift and overcome my beliefs and say the thing that was like, hey, they could perceive me as a salesperson, but the thing is that when I said it in this perspective, they didn't see me as that. They saw me as someone trying to help them, right? It all depends on how you say things. So shifting the belief is absolute key. Discovery and clarity for your people. So we spent so much time talking about us because we're the first biggest client you can sell. You've got to sell yourself before you can sell anybody else. But then, the most important thing before you go and talk to people is, who are your people, right? A lot of us, we're going out and we're selling, we're saying, we're spraying, we'll sell anybody. When I first started my business, I was just trying to make money, and I was in the same boat as everybody else. And somebody came to me and asked me if I'd be their relationship coach. And I needed the money. So I was like, I don't really want to do this. I could really mess up the relationship. So I threw a really high amount of money out there, and they said, okay, let's start. I was like, oh, shit. Like, I don't want to do this, right? And so I ended up having to back out and tell them I didn't want to do this. If you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything, right? You don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. So what do you stand for? Why are you doing what you're doing? Let's start with why. Why are you doing what you're doing? When I sit down with my clients and we're trying to figure out who their target clients are, how they find them, what their pain points are, I ask them a simple thing: tell me a story. And you can sit and you can do this at home. Do you tell me a story? Who is your favorite client you've ever had? I love it because there's data. Stories are data was sold. And so when someone starts opening up and they start telling that story, they start saying like, oh, I met this person here. I'll give you an example. I had a client. He's a graphic designer, and I asked him to tell me a story. And the first thing he says, I'm a horrible storyteller. Belief, right? So this guy tells me he's a horrible storyteller, and then he tells me a story that made me cry. Like, it literally brought tears to my eyes. He started telling me about this author that they had a dream and a vision to write a book. And he designed this cover for this book, and when he delivered the finished copy, after all the work was done, this guy just cried because his project, his dream became a reality, and John helped him make that a reality. First off, that's an incredible story. Second off, where are the authors at? Right? Where did you find that guy? Where did he come from? Oh, Bill sent him to me. Did Bill send anybody else to you? Did you thank him? Did you send him a thank you card for sending you out that? Like, how can we intentionally pour gasoline on those sparks, right? If you have somebody sending you referrals, how do you take care of that person? It's all about intentionality, right? I can tell you where I have my people down with science. And I don't want to put you as an object in that way, but in a science, in the sense of when I meet people, I know where they came from, right? And if I don't off the top of my head, there's somewhere in my CRM where I can trace it back and understand the relationship of where I met that person. Now, the bulk of people that I meet come from a bucket of small people. Those small people connect and introduce me to a lot of people. There are those connectors in life. Find those connectors, right? Find those people. And so, who are your people? First thing you gotta understand is there's a couple buckets of people you're looking for. There's your ideal clients, and then there's strategic partners. There are people that you build relationships with because they're maybe in the same industry, have similar clients to you, and you build relationships with them because then you have people that you can refer, and you can also assist your clients at another level, right? So, for example, I got a client a few months ago, didn't turn out to be a great client, but a few months ago, and they said, hey, I'm looking for a fractional marketing guy. Like, I know an amazing guy, and I pulled in Rob, and Again, not a great client, but we, I was able to pull that in. So when you build strategic partnerships, and so I'm going to ask you this: who are people in your industry you can connect with? Who do you meet here? Because again, we never know when we're meeting people who they know, right? And so it's all about meeting people, having conversations, and understanding how they can help you and how you can help them. But ideal clients, what's their problem? What's like, you gotta think like them. You gotta get outside of yourself and outside of your emotions of what you think works or what you think is great, and understand where they're coming from. Outward mindset. So it's a really good graphic of outward mindset versus inward mindset. In all great sales are done from outward. When I started my business, I was thinking about I need to make money, right? I told you guys at the beginning, I need to make money. And so when those relationship people came to me, I was like, how can I fit this in? I was thinking about the products, the service, surviving, right? Really, when you go into any conversation, whether it's with a strategic partner or with an ideal client or some people, think outwardly. Who are they? What are they doing? Why are they doing it? What are their challenges? I was meeting with a potential client today, and she couldn't afford my coaching for the whole package. So I said, let me ask you, what is your biggest challenge right now? And so she told me, and then I was able to give her a smaller package to work on just the biggest challenge to help free her up, because if she doesn't get freed up, she's not gonna have a business to come back to in 3 months, right? And so it's all about that discovery, not for me selling, but for me understanding how can we help and serve. If you start asking your questions in the who, what, where, when, and how, you're gonna get so much information from your people. In fact, you'll probably ask only a couple questions, and they'll start telling you their story. But when you're doing it beforehand, again, going back to that story, you'll understand a little better how to find them. Know, like, trust on Cage. This has been my strategy. It's been what I've been coaching my clients on, and it's multifaceted in the sense of who just does social media posting. Does anybody in here just do social media posting?
Not just.
Some social media posting. Okay, so everybody here's in a networking event, so that's a stupid question. Who just does networking events? You kind of mix it in? Social media posting, events, that kind of, okay. So, key as far as doing in person, getting out there doing this, meeting people, but taking it to that extra level. How many times when you go to an event like this do you actually then meet with people that you met here?
Great question.
That's how I met.
Nice.
Like one-on-ones?
Yep.
Like you go out and do a one-on-one and say, hey, let's go grab coffee or whatever?
Yep. That's where all the magic happens. We, several of us in here are in SiriusNet. And I hear people all the time that are like, oh, I was in SiriusNet and it didn't really do anything for me. And I'm like, did you just go to meetings? They're like, yeah, I just did meetings, I did my member minute. And you can tell people, whether we're in a chamber meeting or any other kind of, and you get that minute, you can tell the people that don't do one-on-ones because they're trying to fit everything into that minute. And all of a sudden it's 5 minutes, right? Oh my God, I went to an event in Ann Arbor last year, and there was a banker that gave a 10-minute dissertation in what he does. And when I thought he was done, he went, and we do financial aid, and we do, and it was like, oh my God, somebody shoot me in the face right now. Right? No, a little bit of intrigue, a little bit of just a little bit of what you do, right? Leave people wanting more, because the real magic happens when you meet, you connect with people, and you say, let's connect outside of this. You ever go to a funeral, and you hear, oh, we should meet again when we're not here. We should get together again when we're not at an event like this, or a family reunion. You take out your calendar and schedule something. Because if you don't, the next time you're going to see that person is when you're back here again, right? And so, go to events like this. go to the chamber events, take advantage, and obviously everybody's here, so you're probably doing that. But then take that extra strategy and be intentional and find people that you want to connect with and meet with. The other thing to add in, we talk about content, but how many people here, when you go to an event like this, then go out and reach out and connect with people on social media? Do you send friend requests to people that you met here? Do you connect with them on LinkedIn?
Just the ones I like.
Yeah, intentionality, right?
Right.
Yes. So just the ones you like. Why do you do that?
Build a network. So you have lots of contacts and you can, when people post stuff, you can share their stuff.
Yep. Yep. Bringing them in, so the hardest thing to do in sales or in entrepreneurship is to stand up on top of the mountain and tell everybody why you're the greatest thing in the world. I get a chance to do that right now because Julian invited me, right? So like I get to stand up here and talk to everybody and you're all hostage here. You can leave. But if I just stood up here and was like, I've got the greatest consulting company, like I've got this amazing podcast at Roz Studio, like blah 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 blah, you are gonna get up and leave, right? You're like nobody wants to hear you talk about yourself. However, going back to the stories, right? And using content. So when you pull people in, when you meet people at events, connect with them on social media, but then have an intentional strategy. What are you doing on your social media? Right? So if we're talking about content, what kind of story are you telling? Are you making video? Is that a struggle? For me, I got out and I love public speaking. I did it for my job. It was one of the big things that I wanted to do when I started my company. And so I thought when I pull out my video camera, it's not going to be hard. I can make videos just like that, no problem. And then I got there and I went to go hit record and I'm like, you know, I gotta go to the bathroom actually. And then I went back and I went to go hit record and I'm like, my neighbor is pounding on their wall kind of over there and I can't, you know, it's too loud. The sun's coming in at the wrong angle. It would take me 15 hours to make a video. Tracey was witness. Like she saw me like, you know, it was hard for me to do. And then when I was doing it and nobody's reacting, I'm in my head, I'm like, this sucks and everything else. I got to where it's like, this is okay, but I didn't love doing it. In the meantime, I'm out having all these amazing conversations with other entrepreneurs. I'm thinking other consultants' brains. I'm meeting up with other entrepreneurs I'm seeing doing awesome things in the community, and I want to learn from them. And while I'm meeting with them, I find they're like me. They need to create content too. They're sitting and trying to brand themselves too. They're sitting in front of the camera trying to hit record too. And so if we're having this amazing conversation, it's making me a better person, a better entrepreneur, a better husband, a better father. I'm learning and growing from the things that we're having in this conversation. And they're telling me this story that, oh my God, it just made me cry or gave me shivers. What if I brought my camera with me and started recording content? And so that's how Coffee and Grip was born. Is I just brought a GoPro with me to conversations and I say, that was awesome. JJ, can we pull the camera out? And everybody said yes. And so my early content would be at the coffee table at BCAT or wherever, and I'd be like filming, just creating content. Because it's all about creating these short little clips that I was putting out and putting the spotlight on other people. And then I was like, Gracie, this is the Tupac method. I'm going to create so much content that I could die right now and you can still post content for me for the next 26 years. Tupac, right? So nobody got it. All right. But so now I have just hours and hours and hours of this content with other great people and myself that I can just disperse in. People know me. What happened, what was really cool, as kept putting this content out there, is I would go to meetings because somebody would schedule a meeting with me, and they'd start telling me this story, and I'd be like, oh my God, that reminded me of a story that happened to me, and I'd start telling this story. They're like, yeah, I know, I saw the video, that's why I called you. One time, this is the craziest thing that ever happened to me. I got up, there was this lady that was following me on LinkedIn, and she was liking and commenting on all my posts, and so I reached out to her because when people are liking and commenting on your posts, it's like walking into your retail store. It's walking into your retail store. Why do they keep walking into your store? And think about it, if people are walking into your store and you're not saying hi to them, and how can I help you, and why are you here, they're probably never gonna come back, right? They're just gonna end up fading away. Like I keep going into the store, it's weird, nobody's talking to me. So when people comment on my posts, I shoot them a message. I interact with them. I engage, right? One, I engage in the comments because it's going to create more more distribution, right? More people are gonna see it. But then I invite them, because especially if they're liking my content over and over, there's gotta be a reason. Let's have a conversation. Reach out to those people. Make it more than just they like your content or you saw them at a networking meeting. Bring that relationship home, right? Be intentional. And so I messaged this lady and I was like, hey, let's have a conversation. So we get on a Zoom and I get on and she's like, oh my God, you're real. And I was like, yeah? And she's like, oh my God, that's so embarrassing. But she was like, you gotta understand, I've been watching you like some people watch their favorite actor on Netflix. I've been watching just your videos and your content. And so to now talk to you is like, oh my God, you're real. There's a year and a half ago or so, I was at a networking event in Ann Arbor, and there was this guy that I had saw, I kept on being put up in my people you might know, so I knew his name. And I saw him walk by me, we'd never met. And he's walking by me, I'm talking in a group, and I see him go, like this. And all of a sudden he comes up to me, he's like, are you Jason Tracey? And I'm like, yeah, you're Bill, right? And he's like, oh my God, you know my name? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, I thought you were just some talking head that was out of California. And I was like, no man, come here. And so like it's really cool. When you create that content, you don't know who's watching. People tell me I'm a public person, and I kind of forget that I'm a public person because I'm usually one-on-one in a studio with a mic, and I forget how many people actually listen to it. Because at first nobody did. So I forget how many people listen to it. So it's cool though, because I'm not telling you to start a podcast. Though if you do, I know I'm a great guy. I'm not telling you to start a podcast, but because there are several clients I've worked with that's like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to go through any of that. I don't want to create my own podcast. How can you still create the content though, right? Find a podcast, find people that are doing podcasts that are relevant to your industry. The biggest reason why I started a podcast in general is just to get exposure from other people's networks, right? Like, if they're posting because they're happy that their content's out there, they're now bringing new people into my network, right? And it's paying off beautifully, all right? So, go out and find people in your industry or that are relevant to your industry, that are talking to your people, and be on their podcast and create that content. Now, here is the key. How many people listen to an hour podcast?
I do, but I've never.
Okay.
Most people don't.
6 of you. Most of you don't, right? I clips, like use the social media algorithms, TikTok, shorts, reels on Instagram and Facebook. They all give you a vehicle to just go out there and create little videos. And if you are on somebody's podcast, take that content and turn it into short clips. Don't rely on an hour. The biggest disappointment I have for my guests is when they come on the show and they don't do anything with the content. Because, oh my God. And then just run into them later and they're like, I'm struggling with my content. Why? Not only could you take that clip in an hour, like in any one of my podcasts, it's like, the globe game you play when you're a kid, you spin the globe and you can pick up on the dot, like I'm gonna live here. On my content, on my YouTube videos, I can pick a spot in my content, I could cut a 30 to 60 second clip for you to shine the light on your difference, and people would be like, whoa, that's amazing, right? The ATA guys from ATA Home Building, man, they got like 20,000 plays on their content. And they keep telling me like, oh my God, these people are like, everybody's calling me. And it's so cool to see that. But people pulled into those 30 to 60 second clips and they were listened to for over 4,000 minutes. People are tuning into that. So take that content, clip it, but also, what are you saying? Can you turn that content into a copy post?
So what were those tools you said to use to clip things?
There's a lot of stuff out there. Tools, like I use Adobe Premiere Pro, I've used, I can't think of the one I use a mobile app right now. Opus Pro is
a free one.
What is it? OpenShot. I pay for one so I can remove the branding off of it. I bought it. It's
CapCut?
U-Shot or something like that. I can't remember what it was.
What do you think a good length is for like a short video?
Sure, 30 to 60 seconds.
That's short? Okay.
Yeah.
Is that what you said?
Instagram and Facebook will now let you post up to 1:20. YouTube only does a minute. TikTok is now wants you to do a little bit longer videos, so you can post up to like 3 minutes, I think. But I still keep them at that minute. Again, and even looking at the analytics of a clip, even the good clips, people are listening to like 55 seconds, right?
Mhm.
They're not, you can look at your analytics, and if you're posting a 3-minute clip and people are watching 10 seconds of it, shorter, you know, much shorter. But this is easy stuff in the sense of like, I went on over 100 podcasts, and I have content everywhere. And so, but then I don't even use that because I have my own content that I'm producing every single week, right? And so, I can't get that picture. Oh, you can do self-made videos, testimonials. Guys, if you have clients and don't leave it up to them, I purposely schedule videos. I'll do a Zoom or a Zoom call with a client when they want to do a testimonial, and I'll ask them just 3 questions. You know, what was the challenge you had? What as a result of us working together? You know, what was the impact? Ask me a couple of those questions like that are specific, because if you leave a testimonial up to a client, you'll be like, Jason was a great coach. Great. What does that mean? You know, like, I feel like I just paid somebody to go on and say that. You know, like, you want something with more detail, and when you ask people, when you put a little bit more control in it, the best testimonials I ever got, I did a Zoom, and then I just edited myself out, and then had them talking. Sales process. I had this guy I was talking to one time, and he was like, I'm going to change up my whole entire sales process, I have all my marketing, it's not working. And mind you, this guy was he had 30,000 connections on LinkedIn, and his stuff was getting 1,000 reactions to it. He was people were watching, but he wasn't selling. So I said, what's your sales process? And he's like, YouTube, Facebook, and no, that's not a sales process. All right. A sales process is the journey from when you get a prospect or a lead, and you take them through either being a client or maybe they're not a fit, right? So they're right out of you being intentional though with what your process is so important. When somebody calls you and says, I'm interested, what do you do? Does anybody have a good process? Somebody calls you and says, Carol, somebody calls you and says, I want to get acupuncture, what do you do?
Great. The first step in our clinic is the initial consultation. We'll review your health history, we'll review your goals, and I'll give you my best recommendation for a treatment plan. My first available is blah, blah, blah.
Yep. I love her. She's the best role player ever, by the way. I love when people come to me ready to role play. Like, not many of them, like the 1%. That's Carol. Carol has a process. She doesn't sell over the phone. If a client says, if somebody calls her up and says, I want to do acupuncture, she doesn't say, it's this price, and you start on Monday. No, we got to come in and evaluate you, right? In order to really understand what your process, what the system's going to look like, what your price is going to be, what the treatment plan is going to be. I've got to see you. We got to dive in and ask some questions, and you can't do that over the phone, can you?
Right, exactly.
And so here is the important thing about process. If you don't stand for something, you'll fall for everything. What works? I've had so many people I've worked with that are like, well, ideally this is the process. But my clients, they want the results. And so they don't want to do this whole process thing, they just want the results. And my question is, can you get the results of the process thing? Not really. You know, so like usually we get some watered down results. Does that make you happy? No. I know Carol doesn't want to give somebody like a temporary relief, and all of a sudden then they fall out, she knows they're not going to be better with one treatment, right?
Right, exactly.
And so they're not going to take you through that process and give you one treatment.
Right.
I know that it takes this many in your plan in order to get you where you need to be. Same thing through my coaching process. This is what it takes. Like, this is the commitment. And if you can't, you're probably not going to get the results. And so it's not even worth going down that route. Don't change what you know works. Stay consistent with it, right? And tell them, I have a process for a reason. I know Rob has a process, and I know he doesn't vary from it. It's his process, right? And he has it documented, and you can show people, this is the process, we don't vary from it. This is what we do. And people either respect you or they don't. The people that want you to skip to the process are going to be headache clients. They're not the clients that you want. And they're going to make you feel bad, because then they're going to tell you that they didn't get results at the end of it when they didn't follow your directions, right? Just listen to the process. Trust the process. FU is not a bad word. Follow up. Oh my God. We talk about being the difference. And just following up and calling people back is a huge difference maker. we had a few years ago, we had 3 companies come out and quote us to trim our tree. 3 people, 3 business owners came out, looked at our tree, took a bunch of notes, they wrote a bunch of things on paper, took their time, took their gas to drive out to our house, and then told us, we'll send you an email with a quote. Out of the 3, how many people do you think followed up and sent us a quote?
1.
0.
Mm-hmm.
And then 2 months later, a tree fell in our house. You know, like literally, it just happened. So I tell that story all the time. Like, if I remembered their names of their company, like I'd be telling about how this company was crap. It's so important to make sure that you're following up with your people. Now, what do you say, right? I have a lot of people that tell me I don't follow up because I feel like I'm bugging people, right? And so it's so important. I didn't talk about this in the process. Next step. In your conversation when you're talking to people, always lead with what is the next step, all right? If I tell Rob I'm talking to you and I'm like, all right, Rob, next step is I'm gonna call you next Tuesday at 9 with that information that I told you I was gonna give you. What happens if I don't call Rob at 9 on Tuesday?
He doesn't trust you.
He doesn't trust me. Right now, like most people don't call people back or refer because they feel like they're bugging people. Now, all of a sudden, I've intentionally locked myself in where if I don't call Rob, I'm gonna feel like a piece of crap, right? I've let myself down, I've let Rob down. I've now built into the next step a promise. And now, that locks in that follow-up. Now, again, what do I say to Rob? Well, we had a specific couple things that I was gonna follow up with, right? But a lot of times, when you're calling somebody back, what do you say to them? That's the hardest part about follow-up. Who has a CRM? If you don't have a CRM, how are you keeping track of the people that you're having conversations with?
Calendar.
Calendar? So in your calendar appointment you write down. How do you find them again? Like, you have to go find the date you met with them on?
No, you have a full appointment call, whatever.
Okay.
And of course, depending on the number of people you have to be able to reference what you talk about.
Yeah. So CRM, customer retention module is what it is. It's a system to be able to retain your customers. It's in the name there. What it does, again, keeping track of the conversations and the people you're meeting, potential customers, putting in the notes what your conversations are. And so, what was the next step? Right? What was the next step of the conversation? What are some personal details? What's their vision? What's getting in their way? How can you serve them? Right? What are some challenges? What's going on in their personal life? What are some personal connectors? Are they going to Florida in the next week? So adding personal details about your conversation. Now if I'm calling JJ next week, and I'm like, JJ, what is up? Man, how was that trip to Florida last week? So like, awesome. Hey, I'm calling you because last week I told you I would, and I told you I'd have these couple things to follow up with. Here are these things, right? Now, again, you might not even realize this as a person, why you don't like somebody or why you don't trust them, except for they didn't call you back or they didn't do the things they said they were going to do. So it's a subconscious thing a lot of times. Intentional, if you want to grow intentional business, I highly recommend getting a CRM. It's the backbone of your business. Right? It's going to be that driver. It's going to make follow-up easy. It's going to give you a reminder because you can set that calendar appointment. But you can also do that in the CRM and then have more notes. The cool thing though, and again, we talk about intentional, we want to talk about predictability. We talk about, hey, this month I had a good month, awesome. And then next month completely fell off and we had $0 in revenue. How are you predicting what is coming in? If I don't have a sales, we talk about sales process, and so I have a process. There's that lead, right? And then we gotta discover. So my first step is going and having a discovery meeting. And so when I meet with somebody that is a potential client, we have a discovery meeting. Because I want to discover, am I a good fit for them? Do they want to work with me? Do I want to work with them? Because that's important, right? Because we're not going to get results if we don't. So CRM, backbone, how are you scheduling your appointments? In my CRM, I have a calendar scheduler and I send out links to people. My calendar is a backbone to a sales business. However, has anybody tried to schedule a meeting and you're like, hey, what's a good day for you? You're sending back emails or texts, right? How about next Tuesday? Oh no, Tuesday doesn't work. How about Wednesday? Okay, when? Afternoon or morning? I don't know. So you're now 7 messages in, just trying to pick out one day, right? How many of those messages fall off and you don't even finish them? You never book the meeting. They just fall off and all of a sudden it goes, We can prevent the ghosting by making such easy, intentional process. I started out with Calendly, now my CRM does it. When I'm booking a meeting, no matter what kind of meeting it is, when it's done, and somebody asks me what day is good, here's a link to make it easy. Go find a time that works for you. Boom, we're done. And I booked 99% of them. And there are people that have my link that all of a sudden book surprise coaching sessions or book a meeting with me because they have that link, right? And so they can go out there and schedule it. But it cuts down all the back and forth. I hate that. I hate scheduling stuff. I hate looking at my calendar. It's a weakness of mine. Make life easier, and make life easier on your prospect, because the more they gotta think about it, the less likely they're gonna be able to use tools to make this easy. Goal setting and KPI. Talk about meaningful goals. What's the time? 53. Okay. Make this quick, but how do we set goals? Let's reverse engineer one on the sales process. Who knows lead and lag measures? Who knows what the difference between lead and lag measures are? 2. So a lead measure is something that, so first off, a lag measure. A lag measure is I want to sell this many coaching packages. I want to close this much amount of money in business at the end of the month. By the time you know what that number and that goal is, you can't do anything about it. It's lag. The month ends, I get this much profit. I can't do anything about it. A lead measure is the things that you have a control over. How many discovery meetings am I going to book? Right? How many proposal meetings am I going to book? How many networking meetings am I going to go to? How many speaking events am I going to schedule? Right? Because for me, in order to get out and meet people, I need to go to networking meetings. I'm just going back to my process here. I book speaking engagements again because now I'm in front of people, right? And so it makes it a little bit different. Do that if you can. So going in and setting meaningful goals. How many of you ever say, like, I want 2 sales by the end of the week? What does that mean to you? Right? Because reverse engineering, let's know what that means to you. How much money do you want to make this month? How much is your service, your product, right? Or your commission, whatever it is that you're doing. And then how much do you have to sell in order to do that? That's reverse engineering, and now those goals make sense. They tie together. There's a reason and a purpose behind it, as opposed to I just want to hit 2, right? I know that in order to hit my goal of X, Y, Z, I need to hit X, Y, Z in order to do that. And in order to do that, I need to have this many meetings. Now, back here in the CRM, I talk about predictability. If you're not documenting this anyway, how do I know how many meetings I have to have in order to close that many sales? I could be doing 20 meetings and only closing 1 sale, but I got that 1 sale and felt good about myself, right? So tracking how many meetings, if I know that every 5 meetings I have, I'm gonna get a sale, I know that I have to have 10 meetings in order to get 2 sales, right? That helps you really reverse engineer and break down the science of your goals to understand what activities do I need to do, what can I do to take control of my revenue and be intentional about it. It's impossible to be intentional about goals. I mean, listen, if you're going to go on vacation, JJ, I told you tomorrow we're going to go on vacation. Go ahead and pack.
Okay.
You ready?
Yeah.
Cool. What are you packing?
Essentials. So toothbrush, clothes.
What kind of clothes?
The kind of clothes. Well, where are we going? Someplace warm?
I don't know. We didn't talk about
Yeah.
that. You know, like, if you don't know where you're going, how do you get there? How do you prepare? You gotta understand where are you going, because then I know how many meetings I need to set. You can prepare for that, right? You can plan for it. If you don't know where you're going, I can take you to Alaska and you pack for a Panama Beach, right? You know? So you gotta know where you're going. This is important. This is where we're headed with. The wrong goals will suffocate your energy in business. I've seen so many people beating themselves up. I set five sales, to close 5 sales, and I didn't get it. What'd you do to get it? I sat here and hoped for it. I don't know, like I set the goal, you know, I set the goal, I set the intention. What do you need? You need to understand, again, intentionality and through this process, what do you need to do in order to get those conversations, in order to get those and close those sales? And if you're not setting the right goals, you're just sitting there beating yourself up, and you're setting a possibility. There are people that, like, I need to make this amount of money, and I just started a business, I need to net 150,000 right now. Good luck, you know? good luck. It's not, you're gonna sit there and be like, I shouldn't have been a business owner, I'm a failure. No, you set an unrealistic goal. You know, let's be realistic about it, so. Any questions?
Can you run over lead measures and lag measures one more time, please?
Yes.
Thank you.
So a lag measure is a measure that once you get it, or once you know what that end result is, you can't do anything about it. So like the end of gross profit goal, an end of the month sales goal, a quarterly goal, something like that, like a yearly revenue goal, those are all lag measures. A lead measure is how many networking meetings am I gonna go to? How many discovery meetings or connection meetings or discovery meetings do I wanna set? Things that I can have control over, because if I'm sitting here on Monday and I'm like, I need to get 8 meetings set up today, what do I go do to do that? What do you do? If you needed this week to meet with 4 people, what would you do?
I would start calling my ass off.
Who would you call?
I would start with my immediate, those cheerleaders that you were talking about, those
Oh.
people that are just meant to be connectors. And if that, that falls through, then it's time to start going towards those DMs. Start hitting those loan officers I've been avoiding. Yeah.
You've been avoiding, right? I just had my podcast episode that I just had out with Darren Bissett. This guy's an auto car detailer that Milwaukee Tools literally sponsors him, pays for him to go out to their events, gives them free tools, gives them money to literally just talk about them on social media. And he said, a square inch of a man's tongue is priceless. He literally started his detailing business in November. 2 days into his business, had all of his tools stolen from him. I don't know if you know this, but auto detailing in November is not a good time to start an auto detailing business. Nobody's driving their Ferrari in November or December in Michigan. So like, he's out there, right? So all his tools stolen, going through a little bit of depression. Is sitting in a restaurant downtown and sees a guy pull up in a Ferrari. And is like, this is what I want. So he ran to his car 2 blocks down the road in the cold, got his business cards, and as he's going back, the fear setting in, right? This guy doesn't want to talk to me. He doesn't want to talk to anybody about business. He's sitting there with his family. He's got a $300,000 car out in the parking lot. Who am I? But he was like, I don't care. This is what I want. And so he went up to the guy and introduced himself and gave him his card. And the guy said, call me on Monday. And it turns out the guy had $3 million of cars sitting in his garage that he ended up getting business on. And it was a start of his whole entire business. Swallow that fear and go and do it. Because you know what? At the end of the day, we're going to die. And I'm not to be grim, but like literally, we never know when our time is. Think about that. Like live like we're dying, because tomorrow could be the last day. We never know. We're not promised tomorrow. And if we're waiting for tomorrow to go do that thing that was really scary, like I promise you, greatness is on that other side. It's going to feel so good. It's not going to be as painful as what you thought it was. In fact, you're probably going to get somebody like, great. You know, like especially people that know you, like, great, let's meet. And if not, you're going to get character out of it anyways. You're going to get something out of this. A lot of people told me no. I'm standing here because of that.
You can't die tomorrow. You're taking JJ on vacation.
You got to keep me alive, JJ. Anything else? That's an awesome question, by the way.
Anybody else got questions? I mean, I know it's 5 o'clock. It's such good, I told you it was gonna be good, right? Like, you packed with an hour in.
Yeah.
It was fun. It was
Yeah.
a lot of good. We videotaped it, so we will